Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most powerful psychological biases that shape human behavior, Deprival-Superreaction Tendency, also known as loss aversion. This concept, discussed by Charlie Munger in Poor Charlie's Almanack, explains why humans react so intensely to losses, often making irrational decisions just to avoid feeling deprived. Studies show that the pain of losing something is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. This tendency is deeply wired into our brains, influencing everything from investing decisions to business strategies and even personal relationships. The fear of loss can cloud judgment, leading people to act impulsively, hold on to bad investments, or resist change even when it's necessary for growth. So why do we fear loss so much? From an evolutionary perspective, avoiding losses was critical for survival. In ancient times, losing food, shelter, or social status could mean life or death. Our ancestors developed a heightened sensitivity to loss, and that instinct remains strong today, even in situations where the stakes are far less severe. This tendency is one of the biggest reasons why people struggle with selling stocks or letting go of underperforming businesses. Investors often refuse to sell at a loss, thinking that if they just hold on a little longer, the stock will recover. But in many cases, this refusal to cut losses results in even greater financial damage. Take the example of Yahoo. In the early 2000s, Yahoo was one of the most visited websites in the world. At one point, they had the chance to acquire Google for just $1 million, but passed on the opportunity. Later, when Microsoft offered to buy Yahoo for $44 billion in 2008, Yahoo rejected the deal, believing it was undervalued. Instead of accepting a massive gain, their leadership held on to the idea that the company was worth more. Years later, Yahoo struggled to compete and was ultimately sold to Verizon for just $4.80 billion, a fraction of Microsoft's original offer. Their reluctance to accept a fair offer earlier was a classic case of loss aversion. Another example is the decline of Sears. Once the dominant force in American retail, Sears failed to adapt to the rise of e-commerce. Instead of investing aggressively in online sales and modernizing their business, they clung to their outdated model. Leadership resisted change because it meant acknowledging that their traditional business was losing relevance. That hesitation cost them dearly, and they eventually filed for bankruptcy in 2018. Loss aversion also plays a major role in personal finance. Many people hold on to possessions they no longer need simply because they don't want to feel like they're losing something. Whether it's an old car, unused gym memberships, or expensive gadgets collecting dust, the psychological pain of getting rid of them is stronger than the logic that says they're no longer valuable. In gambling and sports betting, this tendency is even more obvious. People often chase their losses, believing they can win back what they've lost if they just keep playing. Casinos understand this psychology and use it to their advantage, offering small rewards to keep players engaged while ensuring they continue betting. In business, companies often struggle to pivot because of their initial investments. This is known as the sunk cost fallacy. When a company has poured millions into a project that isn't working, they feel compelled to keep funding it instead of cutting their losses and moving on. They don't want to admit failure, even when the evidence suggests it's the best option. A well-known example is Quibi, the short-form video streaming platform launched in 2020. Despite raising $1.75 billion in funding, the service failed to attract a large audience. Instead of cutting their losses early, Quibi's leadership kept pushing forward, convinced they could turn things around. Eventually, they had to shut down, losing nearly all their investment in the process. Even in relationships, this tendency is at play. Many people stay in unhealthy or unfulfilling relationships because they've already invested years into them. They fear losing the time, effort, and emotions they've put in, even if the logical choice is to move on. The pain of walking away feels greater than the potential happiness they could gain elsewhere. So how can we avoid the traps of loss aversion? The first step is awareness. Recognizing when emotions are driving our decisions instead of logic is crucial. In investing, having a predetermined exit strategy can help prevent emotional decision-making. If a stock drops below a certain point rather than holding on to it out of fear, a disciplined investor will stick to their plan and cut losses early. In business, leaders must learn to separate emotional attachment from strategic decisions. Just because a company has spent millions on a project doesn't mean it's worth continuing. The best leaders recognize when to pivot, redirect resources, and adapt to changing circumstances. In personal life, adopting a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity can help reduce the fear of loss. Instead of viewing losses as failures, they can be seen as learning experiences and stepping stones toward better opportunities. Deprival-Superreaction Tendency is a deeply ingrained psychological bias, but by understanding how it influences our behavior, we can make smarter choices, avoid emotional traps, and build a more rational approach to life, business, and investing. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into cognitive biases, mental models, and decision-making strategies inspired by Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, and other great thinkers. Thanks for watching, and until next time.